immersive media perspective, and I'll keep it super short to that, but really interested in providing opportunities or pathways or ways that we can share any of that information. I produced a ton of events in digital and streaming media, and literally I've been going from Zoom to Skype to Zoom to Teams on a regular basis here, and so happy to try to help and see how this can come together with Laugh Out Loud and this team.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Terrence. We have another person who's really an advisor to me, as well as a person who's kind of done some work in the area of hosting and moderating conversations between industry executives to student audiences. Her name is Maya Beasley. Maya, can you say hello to Amanda and the group? Oh, do we have Maya? Maya, if you could unmute your mic.
Yes, I finally figured that one out. So hi to everyone. It's nice to see everyone. I wear kind of two hats, but I run a boutique consulting firm that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we spend a lot of time working with executives, trying to get them to build up their diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm also a research professor at the University of Maryland. And again, my focus there really is on looking at mostly people of color in different industries and what creates success stories.
Okay, great. And for the sake of time, because Terrence is only on for another 20 minutes, I'm going to now toss it to Amanda and ask her to give us an overview, not just of Laugh Out Loud Network, but also I want to know a little bit more about you, Amanda. Everything you can tell us about your pathway or your journey to, to Laugh Out Loud Network, and everything else you can share about your experience and how you've gotten there and what you can do to, be more tangible to the students. But we're going to have questions from you, from the students to you, so that we can prep for an interview for Jeff Clanagan. So, but Amanda, if you can, so Terrence can hear this, and if Maya, if you have to break, you can hear a little bit more about your point of view of how you can share with us on the Laugh Out Loud story.
Okay, thank you so much for kicking it off to me. Hey everyone, so my name is Amanda. I work as executive coordinator to Jeff Clanagan at Laugh Out Loud Network. A little bit about my background. So originally I came from a theater background. I thought I was going to do theatrical producing, but I quickly pivoted to the digital space and to like film and television because I wanted to reach a more global audience, also a more youthful audience, also a more diverse audience for Black and Brown people and people of color and women. So that's how I kind of made my pivot from theater to the digital and television and film space. I went to Howard University for their film school after I went to George Washington University, where I got my undergrad in theater. And then from there, it's just been a whirlwind. A lot of programs that helped me are programs that are kind of like the one that we're talking about right now. I went through Academy Gold, which is really great for students coming up, and it helps connect them to different opportunities in the industry and shows you all the different opportunities that you can have. I also participated in HBCU in LA. I've also participated in just like various different types of internships, just getting my hands dirty. Experience is the key, because as much as our education matters, as much as they want to see a great GPA, they want to see that you know how to get your hands dirty, that you have tangible work experience. So that's my advice to any student trying to get into the game. And outside of that, with Laugh Out Loud Network, my journey here honestly was just from a referral, because again, networking, interning, hands-on, and pretty much I was looking for my next step after Disney, because I was working at Disney for 2 years on the studio side with theatrical. And a mentor of mine was just saying, hey, I hear that you're looking, I know you're really passionate about works that are really geared towards, Black people. This is LOL. This is what they're doing with Kevin Hart's company. He's serious. It's not just about Kevin. He's trying to make this a company that lasts outside of him. And he really is trying to keep the world laughing and trying to really look at comedy from our perspective. He has a plan. I interviewed. Jeff and I were very much like-minded. He's more of an introvert. I'm an extrovert. So that's the difference between us. But that's how I arrived here. So the purpose of this call is really to see the type of questions you want to ask Jeff, how he can be useful. Like, what do you see in terms of these type of structure of this? I've heard a little bit about it in the beginning, so I'll kind of let you guys guide it from here.
Okay, great. I have one question for you before I introduce you to the students.
Sure.
Can you share with us who the referral was? Because I think I know who it was, if you were HBCU in LA.
Actually, it was Tamara Gregory. She worked as head of development. No, I think you might be talking about Stacey Milner, who was an amazing human being. She's fabulous. And literally, I was here in LA, I didn't know a soul, and she was doing HBCU in LA, and one of my friends was in it, and my friend invited me one night, and she said, "Why don't you just come back for all the nights? Like, you shouldn't be alone in LA if you don't know anybody." And then I found my community. So Stacy's a wonderful human being.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is definitely a plug for Executive Tim, Stacy, and Ted Milner. They've been wonderful in trying to help us, guide ourselves through the process of getting community college students in Los Angeles, and again, in people from the four-year university in the state of California, because they have an inherent advantage. They're already here. They don't need housing. They don't need a lot of stuff to get here. They're already here. So we've got to make sure that they take advantage of the hometown, situation. So what I want to do now, Terrence, before you leave, do you have any questions? Because I have some more introductions, but this is really important for you. Do you have any questions of Amanda based on what you've heard?
So what I would say is there, anything particular that the students could focus on that is also the story that Jeff's looking to tell, right? Because in the end, if they can key on the story he's looking to tell, our questions, if they're focused that way, you're going to get a lot more out of it, right? Because
Right.
he's new, he's the head. Like, I know him from Code Black. I mean, I've followed Jeff for 20 years, so in the space. But yeah, what would you tell them that might matter to him, if you know?
Very good point.
So what I would say is that, because that's a great question, because the more focused we can be, the better, because we want to maximize time in this experience. I would say when it comes to questions, so in terms of structure, Jeff is best when you ask him just direct questions. Like, he might give a brief intro, but basically what would be helpful for this conversation is that if we have a moderator, that's one, to help guide the conversation, also allow the students to ask questions. As much as he can see of the different students in this format, the better. And then in terms of asking questions, I would say really do your research on Jeff, because he's really been in the lexicon of like Black culture, and I'm even getting to know the deep different levels of that. And also, he really wants to make sure that he's providing value of how you can leave from the conversation and get a job or get an internship or level up or use branding. So definitely speak with him about how you can really get that internship and get that next entry level job. Also, how to use and maximize social media and marketing, because he's really much an expert at that. I would definitely pick his brain in that regard. And then also just ask him about the business side, because that's really where the strength lies, right? Like, how can I figure out the business side of television? How can I figure out the business side of social media? How can I figure out the business side of film? He knows all of three of those areas very well. And he's also one of the founders of the DVD business, which I know is very old to some of us, but it was kind of predating what we're doing with streaming today. So he's really great in distribution. So if you lean in those areas or just focus on the business side of marketing, social media, and film, that's where I would say lean in.
So, and then the piece I picked up from what you said there, and it's really true. The reason Jeff's spent 20 years in the business is because, one, Black content would not get distributed otherwise. He had films, and he really went out on his own in order to make that happen, which meant he had to learn through hard knocks how to get the distribution for content none of the big guys would take. And by the same way, since he was successful, he built his own, right? Almost out of being forced to. And I think that's a unique value proposition, just so all you guys have the context on, what that means. So he would know the terms. He would understand, how the big studios work, what kind of distribution matters, right? What's the threshold for a title? And then certainly the value of social media, if you're independent, means you're driving to your own distribution. So there's a margin in doing that, right? The big boys are not necessarily going to worry about moving 100,000 titles, but if Jeff were to move directly 100,000 titles, it's profitable. So just understand those business elements, because I think that's really key in getting the knowledge from a guy like Jeff.
Right. And then I would just also add on, just for students, because a lot of us, when we get into this, we think about the creative side. This is a time where you want to ask the case study about your creative idea, and he'll be able to really say, or ask the question of you, what's the business model? This is a time where you can really case study with them. So take advantage of a case study energy. If you have an idea and you're trying to figure out the business model, how to make it a reality, bring that case study here, because that's more of a tangible question than just saying, oh, how did you get started, right?
Great. And Amanda, I have a couple of people who are going to ask questions of you, because part of our process is not only to get Jeff to share with us some of the things that he'd like to share, initiatives, as well as, again, focused milestones of his career. But we also would like to know a little bit more from our student perspective. We really want to know a little bit more about how is it to work outside of the Laugh Out Loud culture. And maybe some of the things that students can glean would come from this interview or from this session, a way for them to get better at understanding, again, from that level of peer to almost peer, because you're definitely, again, kind of in the realm of some of the ages of some of the students we're working with. Can I have some of them ask you questions in this session so that they can get a better feel for the experience that I think that they're going to need in terms of how do they get from where they are to where you've already gotten? This is going to be very tangible for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my first questions, I just want to know kind of like the audience, because I know you were talking about like, the college students and the different universities that they're from. So because this is helpful for Jeff as well, are we operating in terms of we're talking to undergraduate students from like maybe sophomore to senior, or just if you can give me more specific demographics, just so I can make sure I'm targeting that audience and giving them helpful information.
Okay, so part of our cohort are Santa Monica Community College, and two of the students from Santa Monica Community College have already gotten their Bachelor of Arts. They've already graduated and gotten through the 4-year university process, but they've come back to the community college to get certifications. Some of them have also gone through the Promo Pathway program, which is a very select apprenticeship program to get really granular. They're a writing, kind of directing, promotion predator system where people get a chance to produce high level reels for short form media. So they are really, again, asserting themselves of all the different academic resources that are out there to get people, kind of in a very competitive advantage to meet some of these opportunities that may, again, provide, some level up of what I think some hires are looking for, but they're coming back to us looking for some other angles and some other people that they have yet to meet. So in a perfect world, I want to be able to make sure that they're able to ask questions, not just, that they can do from the research, but organically questions they may be able to ask of you and get some better understanding of Laugh Out Loud. So the research they're doing is not just from search engine optimization.
Gotcha.
It's really coming from exchange. So with the time we have remaining, Maya, do you have, I'm just looking at some of the chat. Maya, do you have any questions that can help us with this session and making sure that we're focused? Because I do have a couple of things, some new announcements that I'd like to make to you, Amanda, that have happened. But I'm going to ask Maya before we get to the introductions. Maya, do you have any anything you want to point out?
So,
really direct this thing?
Sure. So I am trying to think of a way to put this, but I want to make sure that the interview and panel with Jeff goes as smoothly as possible and that he's getting as much out of it as he possibly can. And, I think ideally we want to make sure that we have the audience that he's going to find most appealing. And to be blunt, I don't know that we have that for next week, because I think this, this has sort of been put together, and I personally would prefer to hold off to some degree, which I'm sure sounds like a strange thing to say as we're on this.
Honesty matters. Listen, but I'll say this. From what I hear of the audience, because, and this is something that I just feel as just like a young person myself, like, don't underestimate students. Like, they're the next voice of the future. So this is the audience that Jeff definitely wants to talk to, because at the end of the day, he wants to mentor the next generation. At the end of the day, also, the next generation is going to influence culture and technology and the things that we're watching. So this is an audience that he wants to connect with, because if there's any way he can influence or even just do a give and take conversation with them, that's powerful. So if there's more time where we want to like just include more people, sure, but I wouldn't say just because we're talking to students, this is not something he's interested in. So I just want to make sure I make that clear right now.
Right. No, and that's not my concern. I mean, I understand that students are the target, and I think that that's fantastic. I just wonder, what the size of the audience is, what he ultimately would like to be able to get out of it, so that we're using his time as effectively as possible.
Okay, well, that's
I mean, I think, look, if you're pushing the show, right? I mean, we're talking about one, producing the show, run a show, moderator, students asking questions. But I think if I hear you correctly, what is the audience that'll be on the other side of this? And if I hear you correctly, Maya, it's like, how can we at least say, hey, you're talking to 150 like students on the other side of that, rather than what we're producing. And I would agree that we need to make sure we have a reasonable audience out there of folks from a variety of places, so that the produced show at least is reaching a certain amount of people, right? You don't want it to be three other people other than who are asking questions on the Zoom or on the platform, right? Want to make sure we have a reasonable representation of there's 50, 60, and then qualify them, right? Who invited those students to participate, Kevin, right? So I think I hear you. We probably need to just make sure that that audience is one big enough, broad enough, and well represented when we pull this together.
Right. And how can this be distributed in the best possible way? Because, you know, to be candid, you know, I think Jeff is an amazing person. I have never met him personally, but I was so excited that I would get to meet him in this capacity. And I have a lot of respect for him. So I imagine that there are tons of other people out there that are interested in this. And, you know, I'd like to be able to maximize this in some way, because I'm sure that aside from those 50, 150, however many students we actually have participating, you know, he's a big name. People want to hear what he has to say. You know, even especially if we're talking about younger people, like that's an exciting thing. So, you know, just trying to figure out the best possible way to do it, and do it in a way that's, you know, as meaningful as possible, instead of, I guess, just sticking to a sort of a targeted time. But
Kevin, what is the distribution? Like, I mean, what is what platform are we choosing, and what is the distribution?
Right. So this is a kind of a tale of two cities. And here's the breaking news. We've gotten a fortuitous opportunity, if we can align with Jeff's calendar, to have Jeff back on a panel April 28th. So Amanda, if you can pick this date down and see if Jeff's available. But this is a huge platform opportunity for Jeff to speak to hundreds of thousands of students through the California State University Entertainment Alliance. The 23 campuses of the California State Universities have extended a pitch deck to me to invite Jeff and Laugh Out Loud to be part of a program that's not only going to be business to business, meaning not just Jeff to administrators and faculty and stakeholders, but also students. And this is an opportunity on April 28th that's been extended from me to Jeff, and anything he wants to do to share the Laugh Out Loud story. But this particular opportunity for March 26th we planned, it was more student focused, but not for a large audience of students to do.
How many? I mean, what's the, I mean, because again, do you, to Maya's point, do you want to burn the one chance with Jeff on a few students, or do you want to say, can we get the bigger thing to say we're talking to all California State University folks and prep, right? Because it's hard to say you're going to get both. And again, you know, I could be wrong, Amanda, but I think, you know, I'd rather prep, have a quick 20-minute call with Jeff, with the people who are going to interview him, and Maya as a moderator. Say, hey, Jeff, this is just a prep for what we want to do in April, because we have a big audience and we want you to know who's going to interview you, want to give you some time to get feedback, but it's not going out to anybody. We just want to talk to you on the 26th and prep for a month later to do a real thing.
So here's what I'll say in just complete candor, or just to be completely candid. Jeff, just because we have a lot of things ramping up for production, he's very busy, and we have a lot of things launching, so he's very busy. So when it comes to prep calls for just any of his panels and things like that happen, you're probably going to get me, and I'm taking.
Then skip it. Yeah, let's prep with you. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, and then literally it's just like, okay, Jeff, here's the format. Here's who you're talking to. Here's who you're going to be interviewing with. Here's the audience. This is what's happening, and this is the date. I'm looking right now, like for like I believe you said April 28th. Yeah, and that day, like the farther out to prepare, that's way better. And that day is a little bit more open right now. So I would even say let's lock the 28th in, and then let's see like if I can just get more of the details on, hey, this is who's going to be on the panel, right? They're like, if Jeff is going to just be by himself, that's fine. Or if it's just going to be like Jeff being interviewed by a moderator, and then it's going to be open to a Q&A for students, that's fine. Just whatever the format is and the audience and the date, and then we can go from there.
Right. So the 28th is more structured in a way that will allow students to participate, just with the advantage of having an audience and a partnership and affiliation with something that was a lot bigger than what we originally planned. This was originally supposed to be, and it started with me asking Jeff almost 5 years ago if my high school media class could interview him when he was in the offices at Lionsgate. And that that promise that he made 5 years ago, that's what we talked about, is to try and bring back an opportunity to have a student exercise and basically interviewing and creating a story on him. And so I wanted to make sure, without having a lot of conversation with him, that we were able to at least extend and complete that opportunity for us to interview him, and then see if we can get another bite at the apple to talk to him about some of the things that are being discussed right now. So
if you got one shot and
let's
it's 5
take the
years in the
April.
making, go big, right?
Yeah, well,
go
hey,
April 28th. If you
April-
got one
April-
shot, right? It's 5 years in the
April
making.
28th, April 28th happened Monday, this Monday. Okay, so the fortuitous nature of this is that we're going to take advantage of everything we can that's moving in the direction that's going to help the students. So this platform really, I think, will help all people get the big opportunity for people to meet Jeff, laugh out loud, in the spectrum of education to workforce. That's really where I think we can really make sure the focus will be with this April 28th event, as opposed to just an exercise or a story. But I think those elements that we're talking about, story, interview, all of the things that they can help this group of students and people on this call be part of that process of delivering something for April 28th, because we get a chance to do some pre-roll advertising. We can have some short form media inserted. We have a lot of stuff that we can actually package into that April 28th event through this opportunity to have Amanda help us try to extract something outside of just what we can find on the internet.
So before I exit, really appreciate it. My recommendation, this is the producer hat, right? Recommendation is we go into production mode. We have production meetings on a weekly basis between now and the 28th. We invite Amanda back because we think we have things together, and we now assemble the team, given that date, lock it in, and really, to Maya's point, understand who our audience is, have it really crisp, very well prepared, and I think it will come off much better in that scenario. At least that would be my recommendation, given what I'm hearing today.
Great. And also I can add, like, if I can also understand like the platform this is gonna be on, because is this gonna be on Zoom, or is there a specific platform this is gonna be on? Yeah, just want to
And this deck, all the features,
And then also,
they're going to be on Hopin. Hopin is going to be the platform.
to kind of add, sorry to interrupt. Hi everyone, Shoni. I've just been advisor on this thing. Known Kevin for a hot minute. Good to see you again. Just a quick question. When you're talking about the event that's happening on the 28th, and it comes to that panel, exactly who it is that makes up that panel so far? Is there an actual plan that for who's going to be moderating or talking during that time, or is there actually, or is it more open and cohesive to where they're also asking you to come up with who's going to be on that panel, who's going to be moderating, etc.? Like, how much leeway do we have here?
After this call, Shoni, we will go into production mode about the 28th, because I have a deck and then I have a scope of work that will answer those questions. But the platform, the date is April 28th. The platform will be Hopin, the deluxe version, which actually scales to 5,000 people. So it's the deluxe version of Hopin.
Okay, great. And also in terms of the 28th, if we can like do a time range or like narrow down on a time range, that would actually be very helpful. I would say right now, if we could look to the afternoon, I just want to make sure I can take a look. If we can look to between like 1 and 3, I think would be ideal. If that works for the rest, like that range is probably going to work best for Jeff's schedule, just an FYI.
Okay, and I didn't ask, we're recording this because I wanted to make sure that people at California State University Entertainment Alliance, they hear exactly what it is that we're going to be integrating into the program that they've made available. for me to produce the panel. And I say me, it's we producing the panel that's going to very focused on what student outcomes are going to come out of this production. Because I think at the end of the day, everything that you'll see in this deck is really an opportunity for the California State Universities to reach an audience and to have the students participate in planning and producing that is the win-win for me, because this will go on their portfolio, and this is really an exercise in them getting better at understanding how this stuff scales to the business of education, the workforce. So that's what I'm hoping that you'll see in the deck, and then the scope of work that'll come with it. As soon as we get off this meeting, I will send you what they've sent to me, because I've asked them to send me the best information that we have available, so that you guys can start to noodle around how you want to present yourself inside of either the panel from 1 to 3 o'clock or anything else that's available in the experience. I think it's an all-day event. So, but they'll be featuring, again, Dolby sponsoring it, and I think they have a couple of the corporate sponsors who are coming along to help produce it. But the reach right now is 5,000 students who will be registered and will literally get free passes to see the event. Okay. So right now I want to introduce, with the time remaining, I think Terrence is gone. I want to introduce.
I need to run as well.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Pleasure
Maya.
to meet you, Maya.
Thanks.
Pleasure
Okay.
to meet you, Amanda, and all you guys that I don't know. Hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, great. So Amanda, so these
Good having
people
you,
here,
Terrence.
See you,
So
Shoni.
okay, these people here are literally the folks that I'm working with at Santa Monica College, San Francisco State University, and I have a couple of young ladies who are producing their own social media platform called Mouth Soap, who've been with Dakar, my nonprofit organization, for the last couple of years. They are going to be part of the gumbo to help put all this stuff together, so that the learning experience for the students becomes my focus on what they can do to make sure that we complete the promise that I made to them. They get a chance to interview people like Jeff. And again, this is going to become, for me, their portfolio piece. Okay, so I want to make sure that I do the introductions, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, let me see who, I'm going to start with Betty Bima. So Betty, if you can unmute your mic and introduce yourself, 30 seconds to introduce yourself to Amanda, and any question that you have will be recorded, but we're now going to be starting to work really towards April 28th more than March 26th. So Betty?
Hi, you guys. Sorry. No makeup and stuff. I'm like really tired today, so that's why I have my video off. But my name is Betty Bima. I'm part of the Mouth Soap. I'm also the founder of Pablum Entertainment, which is a content creation hub. And I've been working with Kevin for about 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years now. So I'm excited to contribute like some ideas with producing, production, that whole thing.
Okay, great. All right, everybody unmute your mic, because if I toss to you, I need to make sure that we get this thing clear and clean. So next, I want to introduce, and her mic's not, okay, here we go. Marquita, unmute your mic.
I got it. I'm Marquita Star. I am currently a digital media student at Santa Monica College. I am a past fellow of the Promos Pathway program. And currently I'm working towards transitioning from a career in like higher education and science to one in media, mostly because I already freelance in media, and I kind of like was born of the internet and kind of self-taught. And I decided to get some certifications for the skills that I've acquired through the internet and freelancing. And my interest has turned to more of a development, production, and now virtual production focus, because I think that's where we're going as an industry, and I would like to see more Black and brown people there. So that's access and equity is really big with me. So that's me.
Thank you, Marquita. And I'm gonna next go to Judy Reyes. And Judy, can you tell Amanda a little bit about Promo Pathway? So Judy, you're up, and a little bit about Promo Pathway.
Hi guys, I'm Judy Reyes. I'm a creator, composer, and I'm trying to focus more on production coordinating and project management. I just finished the Promo Pathways program, which is a intensive year program where they teach us short script writing, creating marketing strategies for business ideas, and also promos for shows and movies, like 30 to 10 to 15-second promos with editing off of Adobe Premiere. So we pretty much got like a crash course in terms of how to get all of that together, as well as work in teams to create our own commercials. We have business marketing class as well. So we kind of did a crash course on everything we kind of would hope to learn to kind of get some hands-on experience in the industry now that we have all that covered. But I'm very grateful to be on this call with you, Amanda, just to see a woman that obviously, like, the backdrop that takes, you know, all the extra work, that's the background of getting things done. And I've been, even in taking interviews or trying to get out there in the industry, it's been like, man. And just to finally see a woman that's like doing work as well. And, you know, I was just like, yes, finally, because it's just so hard to even see that. But it's very motivating now to see you here with us. So thank you for taking the time to do that for us. And I had more questions based on that, because I was looking at your profile and saw that you had a lot of internships that you did, that I was wondering if that was what helped you get to where you were, because being a person of color too, and a woman, it's so and having so many skills, it's hard to kind of help them understand that you can kind of step in where need be, or, you know, just take the backside when you have to too. But I see that you're here now. Perhaps.
Oh, okay, Judy, what I'm going to do, you froze for a little bit, but Judy, what I'm going to do is I want to have you guys have a last round. With the next 20 minutes, we have a chance to ask more questions of Amanda. We're recording this, but I want to get through one more introduction before we go into the rounds of questions, okay? One more introduction. We have one more student. Some of them have dropped off, but the last person I'm going to introduce to the student is Cameron. Cameron, can you unmute your mic and let's see your video. Let's see your nice face there.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Cameron. I'm a current film student at San Francisco State University. I actually just moved to LA. So I'm seeking mentorship. I'm seeking a community, people I can meet with. I'm currently a writer. During this pandemic, I actually put together my own production company. So I'm hiring cameramen, other writers with me, just to produce short form content. I think the meeting with Jeff actually would be good for me, because I also want to pick his brain about like the future of entertainment and what it's going to look like in the digital media space, and just pick his brain a little bit more about that. So yeah, I think that would definitely be helpful.
Okay, great. So Amanda, before I move on to the last 15 minutes that we have, any questions with the students thus far?
Okay, so 1 second. Sorry, just also work, trying to multitask just because someone pinged me for something, but I just put it out. Sorry about that. So first of all, thank you so much for the questions and just all of the compliments. That's wonderful. I'm like, hey, yeah, I did get here. So, you know, that's always great to hear. Cameron, definitely, Jeff wants to talk about the future all the time. He's always looking forward, not backwards. So any questions you have in regards to the future of entertainment and, like, you know, ways to pivot, because he's very big on pivoting, I think that's something that you can really lean into with your questions for Jeff. So I think that your insights are on the money. So definitely, like, just keep going forward with that. And in terms of Judy, like, thank you so much for all the words. I really appreciated it. And yeah, I will definitely, like, kind of agree with that sentiment of just being a woman and a woman of color and a Black woman just trying to navigate the space and trying to look for someone who looks like you in a leadership role and kind of not finding it. So then adapting accordingly. Like, that's been the struggle. I've been dealing with that all my life since, like, you know, my dad, who's been a business owner and wanting to be like him. And then it's just like, oh, wait, like, he's a guy. How do I have to do this different? Right. So that's something I had to navigate. I think a huge part of my success has been networking and interning. Like, I need to work. So for me, getting hands-on is my best way to learn and put the muscle memory in my body of what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I think just like getting out there and doing internships. And in the beginning, I didn't intern for money because I had no skills. I literally just showed up and said, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm curious, right? Following your curiosity, I think, is a huge thing as a student. And then that's literally what got me into jobs, just because I asked questions and I showed up and I hung around. And I was asking more questions and I kept showing up and I kept hanging around, right? So literally I was and I also had to do internships to find out what I didn't want to do, right? Because I feel like a lot of people go into internships saying, I'm going to be this tomorrow. And then you get in there and you're just like, oh my God, this isn't it. But maybe it's me. And then you try to keep pushing, pushing, pushing. There are certain things that I found out early through just trial and error of interning and working that I was not good at. Like, for me, I remember I was working in PR one time. I appreciate marketing, but PR was not the lifestyle that I wanted, right? And then I saw myself doing like being a production assistant. I said, okay, this is great. I'm learning everything. Do I want to be an industry production assistant and do this all my life? Not necessarily, right? What are the other roles? And I just kept asking questions. And I think programs like this are very important because you get to ask the questions of like, what other opportunities are there? Instead of like, for me, when I came up and when I did film school, right, in the beginning of my film school journey, literally it was, okay, director, writer, maybe cinematographer, you know, maybe an editor. And that was it. Those are the options. Then I come out here to programs like HBCU in LA, like Academy Gold Rising, like doing internships at like different film festivals like Sundance and TIFF and things like that. Through those internships, I'm just like, oh, wait, that's a creative executive. Oh, wait, that's a talent manager. Oh, wait, this is a person who does podcast producing. Oh, wait, there's TV, there's film, there's digital media. Oh, okay, there's experiential producers. You get to see the whole world of media just by exposing yourself. So I would say just get as much exposure as possible. That's what worked for me. And then in terms of networking, because I know for students, it's just like, oh, I don't know if I can network. Oh, no, I'm an introvert. Admittedly, I'm an extrovert. I love talking to people. I'm a middle child. Like, I just learned to talk to people. Like, my dad's a Southerner, my mom's a Jamaican. So between those two personalities, I made it work. But also, I would say we are in such an age right now where now networking is a little bit more accessible. We have LinkedIn, which is like essentially like professional Facebook. Do you know how many times people have reached out to me saying, hey, I would love to do a virtual coffee? 8 times out of 10, if I'm not busy and I really want to help, usually I'll say yes, especially if there's a connection, or especially if they say, hey, I love your journey because of XYZ, and they really looked at my profile and really did their research. And the same thing works with me. I've reached out to people saying, hey, I would love to do a virtual coffee, 15 minutes. And because you're a student, when I was a student, I was always asking for informational interviews because they'll always want to say yes, because A, you're a student, so they'll want to help you. And B, someone also helped them. No one has gotten to where they are. Jeff has gotten to where he is because he had people help him. I've gotten to where I am because I've had people help me. Any person you really admire had a mentor or had someone who took 5 to 15 minutes to talk to them about the industry. And then it's just the follow-up. Like, are you following up with the people you're connecting with? Are you asking them how they're doing? Are you congratulating them on their success in the trades? Are you saying happy birthday to them? Are you saying, hey, I know like Texas went through this huge winter storm. I know you're in Texas, just checking in to make sure you're okay, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm a student, what can I give them? I have no value. A, you're young, so you have perspective on something that they have no access to, what young people are into, right? And B, you're a person. So just checking up on them to see how they're doing means so much. These executives are working like 12-hour days, 16-hour days, like just trying to make it. So just having somebody who's young and eager, just saying, hey, just checking in, want to know if you could touch base, like really appreciate what you're doing, that's valuable. Like, I have mentees who've done that, who are just like, hey, Amanda, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the advice of so-and-so. And I'm just like, okay, maybe today is not terrible. Maybe today is good. Maybe I can keep going. So just know your value, be bold and be confident, like reach out to people for 15-minute virtual coffees and interviews. Those, especially as a student, they're more willing to help you when you're a student as well, right? And take advantage of just interning. So that's what I would say in terms of like blanket answering questions. If there are any more, let me know.
Okay, great. I have one question. I'm gonna have everybody that's left on this call, I'm gonna limit them to one question before we get out of here. Mm-hmm. My question is, how did you find the mentor that has helped you the most shape yourself to the person that you are today? How did you find that person? That mentor.
Man. Okay, because I mean, listen, parents are mentors, right? So outside of my parents, right?
Okay, outside of your parents, okay.
Right? Parents are mentors, right? So outside of my parents, I would say, gosh, the person
I really want to know how you found them, the process, or what you can remember that executed, that got that person to say, hey, I'm going to invest in you.
Honestly, when I was a student, I had it in my head that I wanted to intern at Sundance because this was the festival that everyone went to. Didn't know anything about how to intern at Sundance. I didn't have any details, but in my spirit, that's what I wanted to do. Did research, found out Sundance has a thing where they will provide students or just volunteers free housing if you apply. No one told me this. I had to research this, right? So I submit my information, let them know I need housing. I get accepted. I just have to get a plane ticket to get there. So I only had to pay for the plane ticket, and they provided you with housing. And let me be clear, not like you're sitting in the snow on a bench. Like it was legitimate housing with access to public transportation. Like it was, you were safe and it was clean and it was great. It was honestly, I was in a condo, it was luxury, right? But I just, in my spirit, I knew I had to go to Sundance, right? And so at Sundance, I was a volunteer, I was working at Eccles Theater, and I just was doing my job as like a festival volunteer. And then when I wasn't festival volunteering, I was going to events and meeting people and networking with people. So at a party, I met my mentor who's really helped me the most today, who helps with Academy Gold Rising. And we were at a party that like I was able to get into like through a friend because I was networking, talking to people. And I didn't even know who she was. I was just kind. I said hello. I introduced myself. I said who I was and like what I was passionate about. And then we were talking about like, you know, who she was in terms of just who she was as a person and what she was interested in. And she had to leave early and then she gave me my card. And then she's like, oh yeah, I'm with the Academy. I'm just like, wait, what? We were just talking about drinks and travel. What is this? And so then I followed up with her and I just kept checking in like monthly with her, just keeping keeping myself at the top of her mind. And then from there, she said, oh, actually, there's this program that you need to be in. It's called Academy Gold Rising. And then I applied. And then from there, it's just like, she's constantly looked out for me, constantly giving me advice. She's giving me recommendations for the jobs that I've had now. And it was putting myself in the environment of what I wanted to be. And I can't stress this enough because a lot of people say, well, I can make it work in this place, or why can't I make it work in this place that's not the industry? I totally get it. I'm there with you. I'm originally from like PG County, Maryland, like, you know, living my best life. But and I love Maryland, I love those stories, but at the end of the day, like there's something to be said about putting yourself in the environment of where everyone who's doing what you're doing, where they are, so that you can connect with those people, right? Like Taraji P. Henson, I think said, you know, Bison, Taraji P. Henson basically said, how are you supposed to catch a fish on dry land, right? Very true. And I'm not saying you have to be in LA forever because, you know, some people are just like, I don't know about LA, or I don't know about New York, or I don't know about this and that, the third. But to get started in your career, make those relationships so that you can be remote, I would say put yourself in the environment is what I would say is the best piece of advice.
Great, great. So we've got a few more minutes left. We got 9 minutes left. No, we've got 21 minutes. No, 11 minutes left. In this order, Marquita, any follow-up questions before we break contact?
I was curious about Laugh Out Loud's, like, I guess I didn't want to call it corporate culture, but the culture at the production.
Okay, so I would say that it's funny because you're saying corporate is totally true because we are like, you know, corporate company.
Right.
Yeah. I think of us more as like an entertainment startup, to be honest, because we're like young, because again, our country's got started in 2017. Right? That's how young we are, right? So arguably we're younger than macro, right? So it's that corporate cult, it's corporate, but it's that entertainment tech startup. We're hungry, we're trying to take these meetings, we're trying to make things happen. Like it's very much flat leadership where you can get access to different like departments and opportunities if you're just curious, like be respectful. But I think the culture is very much more down to earth. Like I'm not worried about not seeing people who look like me in leadership positions, because that was something I, you know, coming from a Disney culture, I was like, you know, hungry for that. And now it's just like, okay, I have Jeff, I have Candace, I have like all these different women and different men and different backgrounds and, you know, people who are young. So in terms of the culture, I would say it's entrepreneurial, and I would say it's tech, it's fast paced. Right. And it's down to earth as well. And also we're just very grounded in the fact that like, listen, we're just trying to make this content for like, you know, Black people and people of color. That's
and as an upstart, does that mean then people are wearing multiple hats?
Yes, people are definitely wearing multiple hats. Our team has gotten much bigger, I will say. Hang on 1 second, just because like they're saying my computer's about to die. 1 second. Let me just make sure. Also, Kevin, I have an extra 10 minutes if that helps.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I think we've got probably more questions than you have answers. So yeah, let's kind of keep it rolling. So next person, Judy, any follow-up questions for Amanda?
I mean, I have a lot of questions that I'll probably bug her and send her a message about because I'm just honestly taking up all the knowledge right now about just different exposure and just how to put myself more out there, because like she's saying, well, interning for you to transfer from Disney to, well, you saw that the difference because of the diversity, I think. And so my whole thing right now is that I feel like that's the battle is fighting that diversity. And luckily to now, like all these companies have to put their money where their mouth is, and they kind of have to start proving that, oh yeah, we believe that women can do it. And yes, we have you know, we believe that you get the chance if you have what it takes, you know, so that's what's really helping us right now. But just to kind of hear how you navigated that, because it really is, I feel like, you know, it's like if you think guys have a mountain, we got like the biggest mountain out there to climb. So it's just very helpful to hear how you navigated that, because I mean, I just kind of want to, that's where I want to navigate too. And I just want to get in there too. I'm hungry to get in there and work and help get things done in terms of just bringing more diversity in, and even later showing the kids, hey, we're all in this. See, we're all on TV. Like we can all be here. So I'm just trying to take all that in. So I don't want to hog, because I'll ask a lot of questions. But thank you, Amanda, for even giving us.
Guys, we've got an extra 10 minutes, so I'm monitoring this. So we're going to get through Cameron, and then I'm going to make another pitch to Amanda about trying to put you guys in a position to help us get some material that the California State Universities are looking for content, either short form or promo material. But eventually we're going to try and show everybody what you can do by your work. So Cameron, any questions for Amanda? Any follow-up questions?
I think you touched on a lot of stuff that I had questions about. I guess my only question is, how has your mental health been during this pandemic?
Nice, good question.
Excellent question. So during the pandemic, I was working at Disney, and then I got furloughed. And so then from there, I was working part-time in tech until I found out from Disney, like, hey, what's going on, right? So, but in that time, I was interviewing with other positions, and pretty much it was half of the positions were by referral from mentors. And then a few other halves were just like me, just reaching out saying, hey, I'm curious about this position. I think it was the best thing too that my mentor did was really just helping me keep my emotional mental strong during this. Because when you're on the search for your next position, a lot of times you'll have doubts, you'll be unsure, you'll wonder if you're worthy, or imposter syndrome. And people who've gone before you have been in your shoes, who can give you that advice to keep you grounded and focused. That matters, right? Because when you're in it and this is your first time like navigating the waters of a furlough or trying to find your next position, you don't know. And so for me, I was just like, wait, what am I doing? But then, you know, my mentor's just like, okay, hold on. This is your strategy. This is how you have to think. You have to take some time and take a step back. Where were you a year ago? Like, let's think about where you were last year. Now, where are you now? Right. And then also mentors to me are very helpful because also they can like give you recommendations. They can also tell you the truth about different things. There are many times I interviewed for jobs and I said, I would just reach out to my mentor, just, you know, just happenstance, like, hey, so-and-so, like, I'm interviewing for this job. I don't know if you know anything about the person or something like that. Let me know what you think. And I'll either get an email saying, hey, this is great, go for it. We are so excited for you. Let us know if you need a recommendation. Or I'll get the, hey, can you get on a call with me really quickly? Right? And then they'll give me the real about that position and if I should take it or if it's going to be good for my career. And that insight, they're not going to tell you that when you're applying for jobs. That's why it's also good to have a mentor, because they can give you insight on different companies to make sure that you're not hooking your star and hooking your career to somebody who's going to sink it. That's also key.
Great. All right, so I have a follow-up question. Amanda, can you give us some breakdown of your day-to-day responsibilities? And I know they probably shift, maybe they don't, but can you give us some idea of what you do?
So pretty much my day-to-day is really supporting Jeff. It's managing his calendar, it's keeping up and being kind of that touch point between the rest of the company and Jeff, because of course everyone wants to connect with Jeff and ask questions and get him in meetings. And so I'm kind of the first point of filtration where it's just like, okay, what is this about? What is this for? You know, does he need to be on it? Because also the more like Jeff is in meetings where he's doing the day-to-day, the less he can do the CEO things that help drive the company forward in terms of revenue generation, in terms of taking the company to the next level. So that's also protecting him so we can help make the company money and make sure we get it to the next level. So that's a part of the other day-to-day. Also, there are certain things that I'm working on as well with other departments because I have my own interest and Jeff encourages that. So for me, it's like, you know, participating in development meetings, participating in distribution meetings and asking questions around those, understanding how a deal works. It's really, to me, this position is really like being in business school, like for real. And also business school, specifically if you're interested in like Black content. And like, I was talking to one of my mentors the other day, I'm just like, I feel like I'm in business school for everything I want to do. Like specific, and that's rare. That's not really people don't always get that opportunity. So I would say that's more my day to day. It's just like scheduling, making sure Jeff's like running on time, making sure that we're really connecting between the different departments within our organization, making sure I'm working on my personal projects that I have interest in within reason with other mentors that are within LOL Network. And also just like keeping my ear out, right? It's also like I have a responsibility as a person connected to this company to understand what's relevant, what people are talking about, what are the things that are coming up next, what's the future of digital, which creators and social media influencers are we talking about? Like, what's the future of funny? What's the future of comedy, right? How can I get a digital comedy writer on like, TikTok to translate to something that we're trying to do over here at LOL, right? It's all encompassing. So I hope that answers your questions. A little bit of everything, and then it's a little bit pointed.
Nice, nice. Okay, so guys, I think we have enough time for one more round of questions. You said 10 more minutes, so that means we've got maybe 13 minutes. And I'm going to start again, and this reverse order. Cameron, any follow-up questions that can help us get a better understanding of how to take some content from this conversation, and any other questions we may be able to ask Amanda, because we don't have a lot of time with them? Anything else we can grab from this session that can actually help us put together a package for the April 28th event?
I
Any
guess
questions? Research, just anything off the top of the head based on the flow of the conversation we've had this far.
I'm sorry. So you mentioned that you would want to talk about more of the business side in the conversation, correct?
Yeah.
So would he want to? I guess my only question is, can you get into specifics of like the LOL business?
So I would say if there's anything that's been announced in the press, yes, go ahead. If like, listen, if it's out on Deadline or Variety, then it's accessible, it's all fair game. So definitely you can have a conversation. But asking Jeff like insider information about things that we're developing or things that have not been announced, usually that's just like, and just in general, if you're ever networking with anyone in future, that's generally a no-no. So that's totally fine. And yeah, I would say, and when I say the business side, also understand, I just want to make sure I'm being clear. So for example, like if we're talking about like a creative project, like maybe a TV pilot that we're trying to put into the air, or how we're trying to work with this like content creator, right? That's creatively driven, right? Like, oh man, I love this, I love so-and-so, I want to sign him and bring him on. But then what's the business model, right? Like that makes it make sense. So not only are we just creatively driven, but also that this idea that we have is sustainable and lives beyond us. That's what I'm trying to say in terms of like the business model. So don't think of it just like, okay, numbers and budgets. It's also just like, how do we make this sustainably live and sustainably work in the environment of the industry?
Great, great, Cameron. Okay, Judy, any last questions that can help us get more information from Amanda for us to put together some kind of promotional material?
Well, I know that I was just looking at some of his background, and I was thinking of some questions to ask him in terms of how he went from going from the music aspect of business, like music business, and managing these groups and these musicians, and having people take him seriously to even do media. Because me as a composer now I have all this like production and editing experience, and everybody's like, well, you have too much, you know too much, like we can't even. So I just really was more like, wow. And then he built Laugh Out Loud too. So I wanted to ask him how he was able to transcribe what he learned with that business, because it's all connected, right? How he was able to transfer managing groups to managing a media company production. Like, what was the biggest hurdle he felt he had to, in order for people to take him seriously with Laugh Out Loud, or to give him the chance to produce like Kevin Hart's live shows and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to ask him in terms of when we get the chance to ask him questions.
Honestly, Judy,
but I also wanted to ask Amanda what.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, no, Judy, go ahead. You had another question.
I wanted to ask you about your other interests, like your other interests that you were trying to build off of Laugh Out Loud, because I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Honestly, you're asking great questions. Just to talk, like kind of jump back to your question earlier about diversity, because Jeff is very clear about how he feels about like diversity and how we need it. Like literally, I posted an article on my LinkedIn that was about like basically not investing in like Black artists Black artists in the Hollywood industry is costing like billions of dollars. And for me, I read that and I'm just like, so we're really trying not to make money. Wow. Right? Like, so those conversations are constantly happening because honestly, if this is a business and it's show business, right? Everyone keeps saying, oh, it's show business, not, not fun, not entertainment, it's business and show business, right? We hear that all the time, but yet people are literally choosing certain types of biases over the money, over the business, right? So Jeff has those conversations about diversity, about inclusion, about how that affects the business, which he loves, right? And then also just to your question in terms of talking about how Jeff navigated from, like, I believe you were talking about, like, from music into the media aspect, and also like make sure you're also looking at how he navigated from stand-up, which is the media, but how he went from stand-up then into getting into film seriously, right? So he really did a lot of pivots. And I think that's what's one of the most interesting things about him, how he's pivoted from different industries and also taken things from all those respective industries and made it what it is now. So just trying to show how you can connect that all together, I think is an excellent question, will help guide him in his journeys talking back with the students. So definitely keep that question in mind. And then lastly, what are my interests? I mean, I just really love this business. You will always catch me like, watching different shows and giving my opinions. I very much care about like strong female lead energy, right? And especially coming of age energy, especially for like Black and brown girls. Like I want to see like little Black girls who look like me in lead roles, figuring things out and having weird situational coming of age moments at 13. I don't think our problems start at 30 with dating shows of how am I going to get married by the time I'm 31. That's something that I'm really trying to subvert. It's just like, I think I had problems in college. I think I had problems at 11 years old, right? Like I really want to showcase that young girl and also just young children in general, like all children, just like in Black and brown spaces and how we're coming of age and how we're trying to find our voice. That's something that I'm really passionate about. Outside of that, like I also mentor just because I really want people to learn from my mistakes if possible. So I have mentees myself from Howard University. Like I have one that I'm really proud of. Like we got her into an MFA program at Columbia. So I'm excited for her. And now we're navigating that. Like, I just want to see people win and I just want to see the next generation do better. Like I'm not that much far ahead of you. And I have mentors who help me get me to the space and avoid many pitfalls. So I just want to do that for the next generation. So I can see a little Black girl who's an executive at age 23.
Watch out.
Like that's
Okay.
me. So it's like I helped her do that. Yes.
Great. Okay, so Marquita, we've got 5 minutes left, and so we probably have enough time for your question and any follow through from Amanda before she's got to leave.
Okay. Judy is stealing all my questions, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
I have you in my mind. We're working together. We're working like this.
It's like, great minds think alike. Yeah, because I was the same way, like nonlinear pathways and career paths. I think what I'm familiar with Jeff is that he's been able to, TV, film, the DVD business. They all kind of related, but they're different, have different skill sets. So that's something I definitely would want to ask him about because that's something that very much resonates with me, right? I studied to be a geneticist and I'm going kind of far from it on this pursuit of about messaging, about putting Black and brown people onto the possibilities, right? And it's important to control our narrative. So I definitely was like, you were talking about you have projects at Laugh Out Loud that you were doing, and I feel like you still ain't quite touched on it. I'm so interested in that, but I respect if you're not really quite to share that. And then like also something that you said resonated with me was that, Hollywood's biases are really allowing them to leave. Like if you're not doing it for the right thing, it is allowing them to leave a lot of money on the floor because they're not willing to invest and really push Black and brown stories. Like there was I think it was Hollywood Reporter that just put out like $10 billion are being like left out there because they're not putting on Black creators, no matter how much like we know we recreate the culture. They know we create the culture, but instead of putting us on, they're afraid instead of just, getting on board. So what I'm interested in probably asking Jeff that hasn't you, and then eventually Jeff that hasn't been asked before, is like, how do we get to those places where he's at? Like, if that's our goal, I know you have to work towards it. I'm not saying this is like tomorrow. I'm not saying it's 5 years from now. This is like a long-term aspiration, but I imagine you have to get started somewhere, somehow, to be at the table where you can make decisions like Jeff, if that's your goal, to put other people on, to get, I want work to get to a place where I can bring all these people with me. I can get all these stories I'm hearing, because I know a ton of people who are talented and they can't break away. I got some sad stories. I don't want to get into them, of people just get discouraged because that wall's so hard for us to get over, or they can't, they'll be doing something and then they'll put a lighter hue on it and then they'll get the green light, or they have the eyes. Like I said, I'm from the internet. A lot of friends are creating stuff on the internet to get snatched up, and they'll be seeing their idea on, like, there's literally a show that my friend came up with like 3 years ago, and she was like, I don't know who was overhearing me, but it's there now, when she couldn't seem to get any traction with it. So I kind of interested of how we get those top, leadership roles that he's currently in. How do we work towards that to make real changes?
And Amanda, I need 60 seconds at the end. So make sure, because we got 3 minutes left. I have one more ask, and we're gonna wrap it up. So
okay, I'm sorry. I'm just like,
no, it's okay. It's okay. This is all organic. So Amanda, if you can respond,
I'm really feeling this.
I'm gonna have one more ask that's gonna help all of us. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll answer
Go
that.
ahead, Amanda.
So first, in terms of projects, so when I talk about projects, I mean work projects that I'm helping on behalf of the company, not personal, like creative projects that like.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm talking about that. That's the one corporate thing I will say. Like when I talk about projects, it's just like I'm helping like create this thing, like we're talking to talent, or like we're doing grids, like that's a loose term. So just thank you for checking me on that, so I can make sure it's clear, because I don't want to be misconstrued. But maybe one day, who knows? Like again, maybe 5 years, maybe like in the future. But it's a grind towards that, and it's also building relationships. That's one, because I do have a producer mindset. 1, 2. You were talking about like when you were talking about your friend and how like their idea got sold and things like that. I think that's all about, for me, it's just like, that's horrible. And I feel for your friend, because there's nothing like looking at your idea on screen saying, wait, what?
Right.
But
I mean, she had shared, I had helped her work on it. So when we saw it, we were like, I called her. I was like, girl.
Here's the thing, at the same time, in this, at least from what I'm learning, in this business, an idea means nothing without execution, right?
Right.
That's 1.
I am familiar with that.
And an idea also, it's about structure, right? It's about the business behind it, because I can have an idea tomorrow, but did I copyright it? Did I register it with WGA, right? Did I make sure I did all the legal behind to make sure that I own the rights free and clear? Like there are people who submit their projects to film festivals all the time, and they'll ask for like the production book with it to make sure that all the like the rights and licensing, the music are clear. And sometimes people can't just give it over to them because they're not organized with the business and the background behind the art. So all that to say, I feel, and I don't know all the situations for what your project was, right? But what I'm saying in general, I think this is a lesson to talk about, where we have to understand the business. And here's the thing, Jeff will tell you before anything, he cares about ownership, right?
Right. And I'm big on that.
Right. And that's why he learned the business, to get to the ownership of it. Right. And distribution is a huge part of getting to your own ownership, because you can have a film all day, but if you don't have a place to put it, right, an outlet so that it can be viewed, because a lot of the outlets of distribution are owned by people who look like you and me. So that's why he really harps on the business. He harps on learning the distribution, right? Because like for me, it's just like, how do I teach my mentees in the future, if they're trying to create projects, how to do the business behind it so it's protected? Because I don't know the situation, but like properly protected work, then you just go over to them and say, hi, this is my documentation. Check. Right? That's
right. So Amanda, we're up. Your 10 minutes extension is up. So here's the last thing that will help us get better prepared for April 28th. My ask is, if there's anything you can clear with Jeff, is photographs, any social media, whether it be Instagram screenshots, Twitter screenshots, anything that we can use to try to put together some kind of highlight reel of all things that you can give us that we can send back to you before it gets published, would be great. Because this will give our people, especially on the call, who know how to write, who know how to edit and do post-production, this will give them a chance to really deliver a package that will be part of the show.
Okay, I will go ahead and check with Jeff to see what like type of assets that we can hand over to you guys in order for promotion for your event. I will go back to him and talk to him about the dates and just double check with him. Those work so far in terms of looking at the schedule, but just making sure just to confirm with him again that he's clear. We'll be talking to him in like a couple of minutes. And outside of that, it was great to talk to everybody. I hope I was able to impart some knowledge or at least a little bit of inspiration. Listen, you're the next. I was literally where you were maybe a couple of years ago, maybe. It goes by fast and you're going to get into your position and just be grateful and just work hard to get to the next place. And the future is changing. Like, I mean, I want to say back when Jeff was coming up, he didn't see it like so many Black and brown faces what he was doing, and he like paved the way. And now the next generation's coming in that he paved the way for. Now it's up to us to pave the next generation and the next gen. It's just, it's slowly changing. Like we didn't have Issa Rae's all those years ago in the 90s. Like granted, the 90s was a great time, but like we didn't have Issa Rae's and all that other stuff. And like, it's just, so much has changed. And even with the pandemic, everybody's looking at things differently, and streaming has revolutionized everything. Technology is literally the best asset to diversity, and we have to keep taking it. That's all.
Amen. Amen. So again, look for an email that'll be coming with the deck from the California State University Entertainment Alliance, and also a recording of this conversation so that you can share it with Jeff. And we'll be trading emails until we get to the 28th, but we'll be working backwards to prepare for the ultimate presentation of how Laugh Out Loud can take advantage of having a prescriptive conversation about how Jeff can share his philanthropy, his mentorship, and anything else that will level the playing field for these students coming up. So again, thank you again, Amanda, for your time and your energy. And you guys, again, thank Amanda.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for your time.
Thank you so
Really
much, Amanda.
Didn't have to be right.